Today we have Eryk Anders. He's coming on before his fight at UFC 289. Let's get right to the video. All right, well, Eryk, you kind of got a little different background, I guess, than most of the UFC fighters. You played football in college. Before that, you won a national championship 2010. Can you kind of talk about that game?
Yeah. For me, that game was a must win for me because I'm from Texas. Texas was the school I wanted to go to out of high school. Didn't get a look, and yeah, I knew every time I would go back home, like even now when I go back home, people still talk about that game. So I'm glad that we won because if we would have lost, they'd be talking shit. So now they really don't have much to say other than they just talk about the game and whatnot. So.
Yeah,
It's like I said, I'm happy we won.
yeah, and you can talk the shit the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Your coach was Nick Saban. Do you still keep in touch with him at all?
Every now and again, he's a super busy guy. If he's not coaching or putting plays together and stuff, he's out there recruiting. So, especially that recruiting stuff with that NIL stuff, it makes the recruiting much more competitive. So, he's a busy guy.
Yeah. Do you wish you would have had NIL back in the day when you were playing?
Yeah, hell yeah, I want back pay.
Yeah.
What I mean? I want back pay. I want them to assess what my value would have been then and write me a check for, the 5 years I was in school. Yeah, that's just wishful thinking. Obviously, like I wish I could have got some money, but because, I didn't make it,
Yeah.
so, there was a period of time after college where I was like beyond broke. So, that definitely would have helped me out. But, it is what it is. Made me stronger, made me a better person in the long run, I think.
Yeah, no, I want to get into like that in a little bit about how you got into that. But I want first off, keeping last thing with like going on football. So you played, football and UFC. You've been all over, the country at different venues. What would you say is the favorite venue you've ever played at?
Outside of Bryant Denny in
Yeah.
Tuscaloosa, for sure, Death Valley, LSU Stadium. Now we played them in 2008. The game went into like triple overtime. Um, it was so loud, like it registered on the Richter scale.
Yeah.
So the people are cool. I remember like driving through the campus or whatever on the bus, from the hotel to the stadium or whatever, and there'd be little kids, people would be shooting us the bird, and
Yeah.
I remember looking down at a stroller and I couldn't even see the baby's head, but I could just see an arm with the little baby middle finger sticking up.
That's crazy.
The other team fearful, the visiting team fearful, and all those things. So, I just always appreciate it, and I hope it's like that when teams come to Bryant Denny. I don't necessarily think babies need to be flicking
Yeah.
people off and whatnot, but they need to make the other team feel uncomfortable. They need to be super loud when they're on offense. They need to do that kind of stuff, try to intimidate the players and whatnot. So I just always appreciated that part of their culture with their football.
Yeah, and it adds to the atmosphere. So, is it weird for you going from like a huge team sport with like that kind of atmosphere to one of the loneliest sports? Like it's just you out there in the UFC.
Um, Man, to be honest, everybody talks about me being a football player that that started fighting, but all along I think I was supposed to be fighting. I just hadn't found it yet. You
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, like growing up, I wrestled. Um, I always thought that was my favorite sport, growing up because I do like the camaraderie. I do like the team aspect of football, but man, I don't want to depend on anybody to make a tackle, make a catch, make a throw,
Yeah.
whatever, especially when the game is on the line. I want everything to be in my control. So,
Because it
yeah,
might be
I
on you either
prefer,
way. Yeah.
yeah, I prefer individual sports because, like I said, I still have like training partners. You know what I mean? There still is that locker room
Mhm.
atmosphere and vibe with MMA because I can't get better with training by myself. You know, if I just hit a bag and train arm bars on a wrestling dummy, I'm not gonna get any better.
Mhm.
You know, I need partners to like simulate, my opponent. I need training partners to, not necessarily take a beating, but spar me and fight me and do all those things. So yeah, it's very much so a team sport. The competition part is the only part and that's what I like the most about the sport.
Yeah, you kind of like talked about like, why you like the sport, but like what really made you like want to get into MMA and like, it's probably got to be amazing you think about, a few years ago you weren't even, doing that. And now you're in the UFC.
Um, to be honest, like when the football thing didn't work out, I thought that I would come back to Alabama, and have me a cush little corporate job, you know,
Yeah.
selling medical equipment or something. Didn't happen like that. Ended up being a janitor. Ended up being homeless. I already had a kid, so I just needed. I was fighting all the time, abusing drugs and alcohol. So I just needed like a healthier way to blow
Yeah.
off steam, And I started with jujitsu, trained jujitsu like 3 times, and I saw some dudes sparring, and was like, "What's up?" And the coach was, asked me excuse me, if I knew how to fight. You know, you can't ask any kind of 24-year-old male who's just, especially one coming from,
Yeah.
winning a national championship the year before, or 2 years before, whatever the time in between was. Like, yeah, I can fight. And then I fought somebody who knew how to fight and realized I didn't know how to fight.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it right then and there. So, yeah, I truly do think that I was made to do this, born to do this. This is what I should have been doing the whole time.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So I like to do this. I like to find a fight from a long time ago and ask you about it and see if you know anything about it. So you had a fight in 2015. It was in Montgomery, Alabama. Dude, do you remember that fight?
Demarcus,
You got DeMar Sharp.
Demarcus Sharp. All right, cool. I was thinking Sharp, but I wasn't sure if it was that was right. Yeah, yeah, Demarcus Sharp. Yeah, what about it?
So that was like your second pro win. What can you kind of tell us about that fight? Anything you remember?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Yeah, there's a lot of things I could tell you about that fight. Yeah, so first of all, I was kind of sketched out because the promoter sent the contract with the purse blank. There was
Yeah.
no pay. And so I called the dude. I was like, "What's up? This ain't got,
Yeah.
you know, no money." And he was like, "Oh, it's whatever, just put what you think you're worth." And so me, I was finna put like 5,000 and five
Yeah.
thousand. And my coach was like, "Nah, don't do that because, you want to be invited back, blah, 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 blah. No one wants to feel like they're being taken advantage of." All right, cool. So I think I did like 5-5 or 4-4 or
Yeah.
something. 4-4, actually. I know I did. 400 and 400.
Yeah.
And I missed weight. Dude took the fight anyways. We get to fighting. I knee him in the nuts on accident, unintentional foul. And dude, they run it out like this big gymnasium, but they didn't sell very many tickets. So everybody, like, they pushed everything close. So everybody had like,
Mhm.
the people were like sitting on top of my corners. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
And the dude's brother, in between, like while he's getting his rest time, he was like, "Birmingham, you suck. Eryk, you suck." And he was like obnoxious with it. So
Mhm.
I was like, "What's up?"
Yeah.
Did this thing cut off? I just got a
All right.
phone call, so
You're
I
good
don't know.
now. You're good. You're chilling.
Uh, and yeah, so he starts like popping off, and then so I start popping off, and I almost got a fight during the fight. And obviously, I'm in the cage, he's out there, so the
Yeah.
chance of anything like for real popping off
Yeah.
is like none. But then we fought, and then I won unanimous decision. Marcus was super cool, so whatever.
Yeah.
You know, good fight. You know, he really didn't care about the missed weight. You know, I don't know what he's doing now, but you know, whatever he's doing, I'm sure he's doing well at it. And again, I almost get in a fight with his brother outside the cage. Cause you know he just watched his brother get beat up, so he fucking he's all emotional and
Yeah,
shit. I
he's
get it.
pissed off.
Yeah, and I missed weight. Like I get it. If my brother, you know, roles reversed, I'd be mad too. I'm not an asshole, so I probably wouldn't be yelling at the dude during the fight. But then, and here's the kicker: the dude writes the check. I cash the check. I deposit the check and spend all the money. 2 days later, or a few days later, I go look at my account, and I'm like negative 1,600 in the hole, or some crazy shit like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
What happened?
The check bounced. Like I didn't get paid. So like I spent the $800, and for every like I deposited the check, they said the money was in there. So I spent the $800, and for every transaction, the bank hit me for a $36 overdraft fee.
Oh, wow.
Because they said it was in there, then the check bounced, so I act like it was never deposited. And I was just like running it up. So, dude, I called the bank and I was like, hell no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. This is y'all's fault. Y'all said the money was there, and I got in this long argument. Long story short, I was just like, I'll pay you the $800 back, but these overdraft fees, that shit gotta go.
Yeah.
And they saw my way, and then the dude was never found or heard from again. So
That's crazy.
yeah,
That's wild.
I was like, dang. And they're supposed to have like an insurance bond to cover the purse in case shit like that happens. But I never saw a dime.
Yeah, I heard about that, but I didn't really know it went on like that. I want to talk about something upcoming for you. So your upcoming fight at UFC 289. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm fighting Marc-André Barriault, a Canadian fighter. So he's like aggressive, like he likes to move forward. He wants to make it a firefight. He wants to make it a dog fight. And that just so happens to be your boy's forte.
Yeah.
So if you want to play fire with fire, then you know his ass about to get burnt.
Yeah. So how's it go like you finding a fight? Did you just basically wait for a call or are you always like actively pursuing one? How's that go?
Oh, it depends how I feel. Like I'm a little bit older now, so I break easier.
Mhm.
So um, I just tell my manager like when I'm trying to fight, or if I see a card that I think would be a good place to go fight or whatever, then I kind of like, yo, I want to fight here, or I want to fight this guy. Sometimes I have called out a number of my opponents, whether it be on the microphone or
Mhm.
text messages with the matchmaker or my manager. So yeah, there's a number of ways those things get matched up. They do a good job of keeping fighters active, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Final few questions. I don't want to take too much of your time, but when camp's coming up, how do you like run your camp?
Um, I'm over here training at the lab now. It's my first camp with them. And they do a good job making sure I'm prepared, man. Like the practices, I drill a lot. The 2 or 3 keys, I think they're, the easiest path to victory. The 3 or 4 things, excuse me,
No,
three or
you
four things that he does really good, um, and will do most often. So, they're program responses. So, I don't have to think very much. You know what
hmm? Yeah. What's your like walk around weight and like what do you do for like cutting?
I mean? Well, my diet's a really big deal for cutting weight. Um, I finally got that figured out. the
Yeah.
the diet thing. I used to do that. I used to do like just not eat for 2 weeks and run a gazillion miles a day and just kill yourself trying to make weight.
Mhm.
But obviously when you do that, you're gonna have a shit performance. So um, I really just like monitor my weight, cut out like the sugars, the sweets and stuff, and drink water instead of beer. You know, take, I don't spend the whole fight camp cutting weight.
Mhm.
So my walk around weight used to be like 235, 240, but now I try not to get above 225, which that's a big deal. I'll let that extra 15, 20 pounds.
Yeah. Is it hard? Because I know there's like you talk about all these things that go in a fight, and then like fight week comes, you have like media and all this stuff. Is it hard to like stay focused on the fight sometimes with all this going on?
Nah, not for me, because man, you'll see like your opponent walking around the hotel, or for me, I have the most free time on fight week. Like I'm not training, I may do something once a day, like move around
Mhm.
for an hour.
Yeah.
I really don't care about seeing the city. I used to want to go out and see the city that I was in, but now I really don't care so much. I stay off my feet, rest a whole lot, and watch a lot more film on fight week. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
fight week for me is cool.
yeah. Well, last question. So this one's always a hard one. So when your career is over down the line, how do you want to be remembered?
It's the guy who showed up every time, win, lose, or draw, he put on a show.
Yeah.
It's like an entertaining fighter. Probably never gonna have the belt, so that legacy is you know not realistic, I guess. But it really makes me feel good when I'm walking down the street and someone says, "Hey, are you Eryk Anders? Big fan. Love the way you fight."
Hmm.
For me, there's no bigger compliment because not everybody gets to win them all. You know what I mean? But what you can do is show up, fight, and win, lose, or draw. I think as long as you have that entertainment factor, it's people will remember.
Yeah. Well, Eric, I know I'm a Ohio State fan, but I really appreciate you coming on, man. I know I'll be watching the fight. I'm rooting for you, and I appreciate it and hope to, keep in touch, have you on potentially down the line.
Well, dude, hey, roll tide, brother.
I'll see you, man.